ign-game-scoop is brought to you by...
What's up, everybody? Welcome to ign-game-scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. Joining me today is Greg Miller.
Mike Aransky's my co-pilot.
Justin Davis.
Scoop.
And Samuel Claiborne.
Woo!
We've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about what we hope happens to gaming in the not-too-distant future. We're going to talk about the games for gaming. But first, an historic event took place last weekend in a desert in New Mexico.
I'm going to go ahead and stop you and say that thank you for pronouncing that correctly.
Historic?
Historic?
Unhistoric.
Historic.
Historic. It's not ahistoric.
Right.
Oh, okay.
An historic event.
Gotcha.
Took place in the desert of New
Or
Mexico.
did it?
Well,
We're putting the truther hats
hold
on?
on. First of all, Sam, explain to us what happened last weekend.
So last weekend, there's been this controversy for the last couple of decades about a very well documented burial of a bunch of Atari games in the desert, and then a couple of people at Atari that have said that didn't happen. And to make sure that it absolutely happened, it took a film crew and a couple hundred people showing up last weekend just for fun to dig up these games, and they found them.
It was part of a documentary, right?
Yeah, it's part of a documentary for Xbox. Actually, it's going to be only on Xbox. You can only watch it on your Xbox. And it has like Zach Penn involved, who wrote Avengers and X-Men 2.
Yeah.
And he's directing it. So this film crew went there. Fran, Mirabella III, Naomi Kyle, they all went down there, and they saw these games get pulled out of the dirt. And like everybody's talking about the E.T. game that got buried there because it's a terrible game.
So
there's tons of other games that got pulled up.
The story is that in 1983 there was the first big video game crash. I guess the only one.
They printed up more ET carts than the number of Atari 2600s.
That was for Pac-Man.
Excuse me, Pac-Man carts.
But also, both those games, E.T. and Pac-Man, were notoriously terrible for the system for Atari 2600.
And
the market was flooded.
too.
And the market was flooded with expensive, terrible games. People got wise. They stopped buying them.
Atari almost went out of business.
Yeah.
And then they supposedly buried millions and millions of carts. And
People thought video games were over.
The only reason there's been some
almost
conspiracy theories about it is just because this thing happened and there was like a story in the New York Times, but then no one knew. Like, that was it.
Yeah, you would think, why didn't people just go there and dig up the games? And well, it turns out they were buried very deep in the ground. And they were crushed and cemented over partially. Yeah. Although this stash that they actually found, like they dug into, there's no cement there. There was smelly garbage, and a lot of it.
Yeah, it
and
was.
it stunk there. And there was like a sandstorm.
Yeah.
And like
conditions were really crazy.
And an archaeologist on the site got methane poisoning.
Jeez, I didn't hear that.
Trash that's compacting over the years, it gets very hot. And it decomposes, and it
That's
makes
why you
a lot
put
of methane.
You put those pipes in the ground to get the methane
You
out.
could probably light that on fire at some points with the belches of it.
I heard during the sandstorm, though, Fran Mirabella stripped down to his underwear to exfoliate.
There's a picture of him like covered in sand up to his shorts, which is funny.
Yeah, he was wearing capris.
But a woman got sick on site. Like it was very dangerous there. And,
I mean, it's a dump. It's a garbage dump.
Yeah. It was so obviously unfakeable too. It's moon landing levels of unfakeable.
Well, that's the conspiracy theory, is that they had this film crew there. They sent out all these members of the press, and they're like, "Look, it's
and we're
E.T."
talking about like 10 people that think that. I just think it's funny.
Do you know that someone joining us right now?
Number 11! Not for a goddamn second do I believe this. I haven't done much research. My problem with it,
in the absence of all
with the whole thing of like, come here and maybe we'll uncover. Well, clearly you're going to uncover it. Why are you inviting everyone there? And then they bring out one like sad bucket and they're like, oh, look what we got, everybody.
No, but didn't on live television they open like Al Capone's bank vault and then it turned out to be empty?
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly they had found this already. They knew this was there. Why do you think it's such a big deal about it?
They actually hadn't hit Atari cartridges.
Bullshit. They did not hit Atari cartridges.
Here's the thing.
Within the 30-minute window of all the journalists showing up.
Let me just clear something up for you. This is so well documented that they put the latitude and longitude of the dig exactly where they were going in on T-shirts. Everybody knew where this stuff was. Nobody got permission to do it. So it's not like it was really a myth ever. A couple people at Atari said that doesn't sound right because there's an El Paso factory that was emptied out. They did have to take it to the landfill. A guy on hand worked at the factory.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh yeah, we did this. Like this is where they're buried. So there was in a spot. They picked the spot correctly. I think the only thing that would have been suspect about this is if like I don't even know what was suspect about it. It was like they knew exactly where they were buried and they unburied them. They got permission first. Did you know before they unburied the site that a piece of an Atari controller was like just found like when they were walking out to that unbroken ground?
Oh, that's cool.
So there's tons of just Atari crap there.
Yeah.
But that might have just been like a crazy coincidence too.
It could have been.
It is a garbage dump.
Or maybe they dug it up the month before.
That's what happened. Yeah, that's what it was. They didn't go out there.
So you think to be clear, you don't think that there's no Atari carts buried?
No,
what you think happened is that they'd already dug them up, and
I think they had
done.
they had gone out there, yes, and figured it all out. Had a nice.
Couldn't they have just found
nice
where
little
they were
PR
buried
event.
exactly and then did it right?
Yes.
What's it a PR for who?
The film.
For this documentary that we're all talking about suddenly that we want to download on Xbox this fall.
It is. I'm not coming around on this, but I will say it's a little bit. You call out all these members of the press and spend all this money in the absence of knowing if the stuff's down
Yes.
there. Like
You just
would
said
think,
like they opened Al Capone's vault and there was nothing in there. Like you don't know.
yeah, and that
I'm
was
fine with that.
Yeah,
I'm just
and that was
saying
at
they
the
did the
bottom.
whole like, is it going to be there or not? We don't know.
They did open Al Capone's vault, and it was empty, and then it was a disaster that people still talk about like 20 years later.
I thought it was to find out whether or not it was true. There's legend. These cartridges are buried here. Let's go find out if it's true.
Sure.
It may or may not be true, but they found out it was. Like it would have been okay if they weren't there. Then they would be like.
My hunch is that they probably verified that they were there and then made a big event out of it.
Is that really that bad though? Is that,
No, it's not bad at all.
Okay.
It's just a
I don't
PR
think
stunt.
they
Admit that it's a
verified
PR
the
stunt.
event by digging 40 feet into the ground. But they did take core samples the day before.
What, core samples?
Yeah,
Where you shoot down, you come up with like the
So did they find like a
tree.
layer of Atari
So
cards
what
in
they
the core
did is
sample?
they did the best thing they could without taking a giant tool out there and digging it up.
Sure.
They essentially went about it the right way. They had several archaeologists on hand. They figured out exactly the best case scenario dig place, and they dug there. And it seems pretty likely they'd find the thing that they knew was buried there. Sure. I don't think there needs to be a conspiracy around this, but I love it. The conspiracy, to help you again, is that the games look freaking amazing.
Yeah, that's weird.
They are like shiny and
yeah.
amazing looking.
Yeah.
And,
they are.
and then
Hey, look what we found in this bucket,
yeah,
guys.
we have. Is this Fran's footage?
Yeah.
Fran filmed all this footage, and like we went and did like a little like personal rewind theater, which we should do on it because you can see like thousands of games and so many different titles. Defender, you can see tons of Defender cards. You can see ET, a lot of that. You can see Breakout. I don't know. There's just a bunch of games down there. It's really, really cool. And they're in their shipping containers, which are like you stack up a bunch of games in like a cardboard box, and like all those are smashed. So you like see like the side-on view of just like a ton of like the same game. It's so cool.
That's cool.
You see all the catalogs from the time. You guys remember the catalogs, the Atari catalogs that you see a bunch
Sure.
of in the dump. And but yeah, Naomi and Fran said it was like gross and dangerous and weird. So like I think it'd be strange to invite people out there in the first place, but they did it.
Yeah.
Well, they were buried there because of the video game crash in 1983. They couldn't sell these. They just couldn't sell the games anymore.
Or that
dumped
they
them.
had to pull out of that factory specifically down there. Yeah.
Probably. And that leads us to our first question here from one of our viewers, Javier. And he says, if you read this on the show, I go by Javier, not Charles.
And Javier.
Now, Charles is not written anywhere on this page. That's
now
like
we're
being
only gonna
like,
call him Charles.
Hi, my name's Damon. I actually go by Damon, not Jonathan.
Can I call you
Just
Jonathan?
saying no. Anyway, he says, I'm aware you guys have touched on this topic before, but it deserves more dialogue. It's no secret that the industry, the video game industry, is going through a drastic
biz.
transition period and restructuring. What'd you say?
The biz.
Shoestring budget indie games are on the rise, and big titles have many studios hiring a team, making the game, and then laying off said team. Rinse and repeat for next game. Could this be considered heading towards a crash of a different kind? Not one as a result of oversaturation, but of an industry that is changing too rapidly to keep its rhythm going. This won't destroy gaming, but probably change it completely as we know it, and maybe produce a gaming drought for a period. What do you think?
Well, shovelware caused the last crash. Tons of it.
Right.
So much of it that there was Quaker Oats was making games. Purina had Chase the Chuck Wagon, and these games were made it into bargain bins that were like 10 cents at the time. Like there were so many games made, so many not sold that like they just couldn't get rid of these games. And people were just like, these games kind of suck anyway, and they just stopped playing them. Now it's very different because we've had shovelware for 30 years since then. plenty of it. Wii shovelware is like the most amazing thing ever. I love it. I'm like, it's my favorite thing.
You're fiending for it.
Yeah,
What do you got for me, THQ?
So
elf bowling and
So that happens parallel to a great industry, which makes indie games and blockbuster games. And at the time, it's kind of similar to the arcade industry, which the home consoles died out. But in the arcades, for the next couple of years, people was like, oh, the game industry crashed. Well, actually, 1985, 1986, there's actually some pretty amazing arcade games like Golden Axe and Afterburner and stuff like that in those years. That people like because they were high-end, great quality game experiences. And then also PC gaming was huge then. So we can have a crash of a shovelware market. I hope there's a crash in iPhones.
that's the thing. That's the shovelware market now, right?
Garbage.
The difference is that there's no physical media that they have to just they have to get
It
rid
doesn't
of, right?
cost them anything to make the game.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. There's no risk, right?
Right.
It's all reward. So even if that went away, which I kind of wish it did, then we'd still have incredible indie developers and blockbuster games.
I mean, I think things are changing. There's going to be less AAA games. We've already talked on GameScoop a lot of times about how the middle's falling out. I don't think we're ever the video game industry is way too broad now for it to ever get smaller to any significant degree. It's hard on people's jobs. We've talked about that on GameScoop before too. How this boom and bust cycle of staffing up, then you lay them off when the project's over is harmful to this business, and so. Maybe games should be structured a little bit more like movies where people can be mercenaries and go from project to project.
Well, yeah, I mean, the big thing, right, for me, the concern that he raises, I don't see a crash coming where it all falls apart out of the blue. For me, he was talking about, a drought, right? That is a more real threat for me because if I was a kid...
You own a GameCube?
Do you own a Wii U right now?
If I was a kid on the outside and I was thinking about becoming a game developer, the cycle would be a turnoff to me. I can either go and do this thing where I work on God of War and then get laid off and try to find another job and get laid off or I can go be an indie developer and barely be making it most of the time.
Yeah,
most game developers barely.
I saw
making
Tim
it.
Schafer post on Twitter the other day. He just did the calculation of how many years it takes to make a game.
Yeah.
He's like, I have 8 more games. than me.
Right.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a lot of games. Has he made 8 games now up to this point?
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think that's scary.
I think about that, but with dogs.
Well, think about that with articles. I wrote 8 articles.
I get 3 more dogs. I'm done.
I mean, that would be the
dogs,
concern for me is
exactly.
people being tentative about coming into the industry as tumultuous
Sure.
it is. And bringing up the movies, I think, is a good example of the fact that what the movie industry has that video games doesn't is a union, right? Like, there is a network there. Here you come and you get laid off and you are out on your own. I hope you've saved your money and you know what you're doing. There's no one helping you try to find a job.
IGN's coming out now as pro-union. That's the stance
Colin
that we're
Moriarty
taking.
busts through the window. He's just like off. His union sense went off.
IGN
but
has your back, right?
He's on vacation. A tingle just went up his spine.
There's a strange disturbance. But no, I'm not saying that's what we need, but that's the one thing that makes this job, again, very awkward.
Sure.
Awkward? Mm-hmm. So.
In terms of hey, I want to go be a video game developer.
That job.
I hope that I get on at a first-party studio. Yeah, not my job.
Well, you said
I
this
just
job.
get to talk about everybody closing.
Yeah.
I hear there's some openings at Naughty Dog.
Yeah, a crash I don't really see. What I wonder is, we talked a lot recently. The business now is lots and lots of indie games and then a few key tentpole AAA games that come out during the year. I just wonder how long is that sustainable? Or is that just the new model?
People have to stop buying
forever.
games for them to stop being made.
Yeah.
So if people are going to stop, if there's going to be a drought, it would mean that people are just I'm sick of these games.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
And
there's
they're
enough
not.
innovation
People love
now where
video
it
games.
doesn't make
More
sense
money is
anymore.
being spent on games than ever before.
I can see
including-
people getting sick of Madden and Call of Duty, though.
Sure.
But then
But then there's
there'll be
they're
something
not
else.
quite sick of Assassin's Creed yet,
Yeah.
there's stuff.
we're getting
like
2
I'm
this
sick of
year,
Assassin's Creed.
so we'll see.
But
see
that's
that
how it
show.
is, right? I mean, I think series can die out.
Sure.
We do. There are fewer, big AAA games. Just straight up, there's a smaller number of them, every year than there was the year before. But there
think
are.
so?
Yeah, I think so. Totally.
Man.
Think about AAA. Was there one in April?
I think
How
there's
many AAA PS4 games
I
are
think
coming
there's
out
plenty
this year,
of expected AAA games. They just don't turn out to be AAA games, like Knack or Titanfall or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, Titanfall's
Titanfall's pretty AAA.
I don't know if sales are gonna reflect Titanfall being the AAA title that everybody thought it was gonna be.
Sure.
It
Maybe.
was the best-selling game.
Are you guys still
think-
playing it?
Greg?
I would be if I wasn't playing Mario Golf.
Yeah. Mario Golf is where it's at.
AAA title.
So we do see we have talked about the middle falling out of the video game industry, but to counter ourselves, you see a studio like Ubisoft The two games that I'm playing a lot right now besides Elder Scrolls are Trials and Child of Light, which are both mid-tier titles from Ubisoft. And like, they're not indie, they're too big budget, to be on that small tier, but they're also not the Assassin's Creed games that 1,000 people work on. And they're $15 or $20, and they're awesome. Like, that model works for them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're okay. I think we're safe from another crash like we saw back in 1983.
Yeah, I think we're in a great spot.
From that specific type of crash.
Out of time. Certain things.
When everybody gets
like,
addicted to VR, then games are just going to die.
Yeah. Like
it's just going to be VR porn. That's all it's going to be.
That's true.
Well, that was the big concern when DC Universe Online came out.
VR porn.
Is that people would only play that for the rest of their lives. And for some of us, it came true.
A big concern.
Did you know that your glasses have the Bank of America symbol on them?
I don't think it's the exact same
right?
logo.
Isn't it? It's totally the Bank of America symbol.
That's pretty close to
Didn't you
Bank of
see the
America
disclaimer
symbol.
at the beginning of this episode?
So we're brought to you by.
You can't even see it, though.
I know, I don't care.
Okay, let's compare.
I think so. Maybe we should hold this up.
I don't have my Bank of America credit card.
Put your card
Yeah,
up
I
there,
know.
right?
I wasn't going to hold it up like an idiot.
Anyway.
It's not the exact same
There's
logo.
a whole Twitter account that does nothing but reply to
Idiots.
people that tweet out their credit card number.
Oh, yeah, that's the best.
And it's like, you just posted your credit card number on Twitter. You need to cancel your card and get a new one. And it replies and says that to people all day long.
I just can't believe it happens often enough.
Many times, multiple times a day. Yeah.
People are like, I just got a new credit card.
Yeah.
Look how pretty it is.
Yeah,
Why
sure.
would they do that?
Going shopping, and tweet a picture of their card. Yeah.
Because there's 6 billion people on this planet,
Yeah.
and some of them don't know that.
Well, that's like the famous George Carlin joke, right? Is like, think about how dumb the average person is, and then realize that half of all people are dumber than that.
Did you write that?
Just
Just kidding.
Okay.
You said it was George Carlin.
Yeah.
Our next email comes from Michael Baker.
Michael Baker.
Last week we celebrated GameScoop 300.
We did.
It was awesome.
That was really fun. So he says, last week you talked about the big things that happened in the last 8 years of gaming. What would you like to see happen in the next 8 years in gaming?
8 years.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that?
Because GameScoop's been running for 8 years.
Oh.
So what
Man,
are
it's
we?
been 8 years?
Yeah.
What are we going to be
You guys
talking
should have an
about?
anniversary episode.
What are we going to talk about on GameScoop 600? In other words,
And what was
Yeah.
the biggest change?
On the moon.
On GameScoop
We
600.
would like to announce now that GameScoop 600 will take place on the moon.
Doing 0G here.
Yeah,
Or low G.
I got it.
Yeah. I saw a graph of how much you'd weigh on different planets. On the moon, I would weigh 28 pounds. Oh.
Damn, dude.
Svelte.
We could just be throwing you around right now.
Yeah, just woo. Like those beach balls at concerts, you just be like throwing them around. Anyway, Greg, let's start with you. What do you hope comes to pass to video games over the next
Gender equality.
years?
We're right there. It sucks that gamer girls are still gamer girls, and it has to. It's like one of the, there's all these social causes we fight on our daily basis as human beings, and then our own microcosm of the video game culture. The fact that a girl, one of our female reporters, writes a review, and then they're destroyed in the comments or whatever. How do they know anything? They're just a girl. They don't know anything about game.
The gaming Taliban, I believe Cliffy B calls them.
Is that what he calls them? That's a good one.
That's a
actually.
good-
Same
that's a
people
good
that
label.
are commenting on this article right now.
No, we have good fans. The good
No,
people
not these,
too.
not those people.
Okay,
Below the
Right
the commenter
there.
that I've featured at the top of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's well documented, right?
Yeah,
The fact
so you're
of,
talking about gamers, not like game characters.
I'm talking about the gaming culture,
Okay.
to where it isn't that here's the guy in his giant mech suit, and here's the girl with half of her body exposed and her tits hanging out. Like,
What
you know
about
what I mean?
booth babes? The whole deal, like at E3, at a show like E3.
Well, I've seen enough hot dudes there too. I'd rather
Sure.
see that quotient come up as
Right,
well.
okay.
If you're gonna have, you're selling your beach game, you got the hot dude, you got the hot girl. That's fine.
So I'm with you
Yeah.
on this. For the sake of discussion or having to make GameScoop a talk show, you bring up gamer girls
We are
as an
contractually
example.
obligated.
I
put it in
think
quotes.
I think a lot of gamer girls choose to put themselves out there as gamer girls. That's like the
That's
persona.
true. I do see a lot of female Twitter handles, and they'll say, "I'm a girl gamer."
Yeah, sure.
That's fine if you want to own it and that's your identity. Sure,
Okay.
I'm not talking about the term gamer girl. I'm talking
Yeah, but
about
that whole
fake
movement
girl,
of, like-
fake nerd, fake. You don't know what you're talking about. Blah blah.
Sure, I do think, let's not, it's awful, the things that people said about Keza, and other people
Right.
that used to work at IGN, and it's stupid. But there are a lot of women that are like, I'm a girl gamer, and you gotta respect that, and they're really that's this persona that they've crafted for themselves in a way that men don't feel like they need to or choose not to.
Well, yeah, but men don't need to. And if I'm understanding your argument right, men don't need to call the attention. I'm a true gamer, blah blah blah, because nobody would ever question that. Nobody gives a shit if you're a dude and you're just like, I'm a dude gamer. Like, no, it's fine.
Gamer,
you know what I mean? But like a girl's like, I love games. And they're like, prove it. What do you know about games? Yada yada yada.
That stuff all sucks.
I just don't see a lot of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh man, it's all over the place.
I know it happens. I just don't see it a lot.
I would say it's a very sexist, immature.
I don't see it a lot among
Community.
like IGN commenters.
Oh man,
Really?
Yeah.
It's just the whole Anita Sarkeesian thing. Like,
Yeah,
shouldn't do that.
sure.
I know about that.
It's freaking
That I
brutal.
get. That I
Yeah.
get.
That's like the worst case scenario for that stuff. But we have a problem with just not having any female or different protagonists than white male protagonists in games, and like
Right.
it's getting boring.
Yeah,
Like,
a
you
lot of
see-
video games are like male power fantasies for sure.
Yeah, and and then it's just like it's the same. It's the same background and story for characters. Yes, everybody should be able to tell their own story, but I don't know. Like I always like it when there's some kind of choice or some kind of strange character background that you explore in a game. That I want to play those characters. I don't want to play a white guy that has a cool job. That's me.
Yeah, a space marine with a shaved head was like every game when last gen launched.
Yeah.
Even late into it, but yeah.
Sure.
I mean, that's the thing, and that's why, I mean, like, the examples of, like, FemShep or whatever stand out so well, or even Gone Home Story, right? Like, the reason those things get talked about over and over again are the fact that these are different experiences, and that's what, personally, I want out of games. I'm with you, right? That I want to be put into somebody's shoes that isn't just like, well, he's vanilla so that you can fill in your gaps. I'm like, no, tell me
I
their
don't like
story.
that.
Yeah. It's
I
like
want to
reading a
role
book.
play in something where it's like, whoa, that's a strange life experience that I would never think about or have.
Right. And I want to see that, and I want to see characters treated with that kind of respect, like FemShep would be, versus some character that's clearly just there for TNA.
You played as FemShep?
100%.
You did too, Damon?
Of course.
I did.
It's a video game where you can play as a woman.
Do you always choose ladies?
Oh, yeah.
I do too.
Always.
I like that. I prefer if I'm going to look at a person for a really long time and
That's exactly how I think about it, yeah.
I play as ladies in every MMO.
the men are just so stupid looking always. It's
That's
the worst.
That's the reason I
designs.
do it. Is actually in an MMO, like they just all the men look terrible in my opinion.
Sure.
And if you can design them, I just don't really care that much at that point. I usually use default character designs now too.
Is it because you don't?
What's happening to me?
Is it because you
Getting
don't
old.
like the mustache options on the male characters?
They don't have them.
Yeah, I mean, is that the deal breaker for you though?
Yeah.
Sure.
When I take a picture of myself with the 3DS to make a me out of myself, it like puts a mouth like on my forehead. It just has no mustache
It has
software.
no idea who you are.
It just doesn't have mustache software. No mustache.
That's what
idea.
next gen will truly bring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8 years from now.
Mustache.
That's what you want to pick? You hope in video games are
Spoilers.
more mustaches?
Yeah.
Greg, I think gaming gender equality is very admirable to hope for over the next 8 years.
I think we're getting there,
I was
right?
gonna say, we're getting better.
The fact that we
We're getting
talk
better.
about it, the fact that there can be female characters that are strong, there can be gay characters, like, it's one of those things. There's people who get up in arms about it and crazy and want to be insulting about it. But then, as video games have matured with us and we've matured as gamers, I think you see that start to fade away, right?
So there's a few. Do you think Tomb Raider is a good example or a bad example?
I thought it was a good example.
Sure.
I didn't. I think early on it got caught up in a whole swirl of. And then
I mean, you're going to want to protect her.
and she's going to get raped, and people were like, "Ooh," and like that's when people freaked out. But playing it, I thought that she was a strong female character, right?
for sure.
Like I thought she was realistic looking. Granted, beautiful, but that's every person in every movie, unless you're Jonah Hill or Seth Rogen.
Yeah. Sorry, dudes.
Hey, they're on Team Fat with me. We're allowed to talk about each other.
We've talked. You're no longer part of.
I'm very Team Fat.
Team Fat is not a number on a scale. It's a frame of mind.
Right.
So are you on Team Fat?
Yeah, 100% I'm on Team Fat. I am too.
I don't. Anyway, Justin.
Get out of here, 29 pounds on the moon.
28. Don't try to add pounds to my moon.
My moon weight would probably be like way more than 28 pounds.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What do you want in 8 years?
What do you hope happens to video games for the next 8 years?
I really like this modern trend in single-player games that use the internet and use social features to still help you feel connected to other people. GTA did it with its stock market, so there is multiplayer in that game, but the campaign is all single-player. You're playing on your own, but the things that other players do can still impact your game world. Assassin's Creed 4 is another awesome example of this when it worked, there were these super rare white whales that you would need to get. And if you spotted a white whale, it would put a pin on the people on your PlayStation friends list if they were one of your friends, it would put a pin on their map that lasted for a certain amount of time, a day or two, and then they could hunt down that white whale.
So passive multiplayer effects.
Yeah, like these
passive,
passive,
like Journey and Dark Souls type stuff.
Yeah, Journey is another decent example of that's a little bit more traditional, multiplayer, genuine multiplayer. Dark Souls is another great example of now that these consoles are always connected. I'm not saying I want like other players invading my game world all the time, but just take advantage of those games being online and pinging the internet and let you do cool stuff with your friends list. When I was the mobile guy at IGN, I liked Infinity Blade a lot. And they had these challenges where there'd be a boss that would have millions of hit points, and then every player would go in and like whittle it down a little bit. And then thousands of players together would collectively like be able to take down this boss.
Gotcha.
And you're not playing with other people, but you're all like interacting in sort of a neat, cool way.
No, I hear you.
I'd like to see a mechanic like that taken over to something like Borderlands, where like, once 500,000 people are able to do this thing, it opens up a new area of the map, and then you're all working together, for example. And even if you're playing on your own, you're still sort of sharing in like this social experience.
That's one of the things with the new Diablo on PS4, right? The fact that if you and I are friends and this monster kills me, it can then jump to your game. It'll level up, jump to your game, and you'll have the chance to kill it, get extra loot. It'll tell you that you avenged me, and if it kills you, it jumps to someone on it levels up again and goes out.
That's really cool.
And I do think like that's the rumors that we're hearing about Assassin's Creed, and that is the feature that's in Watch Dogs is and I haven't played Watch Dogs yet, so I don't know if I'm going to like it or dislike it. But the fact that people can, be messing with your game world in their game world, I think stuff like that's super rad and awesome. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of interesting game design space to explore there. Just if you know that 100% of the people that play your game are going to be connected to the internet, like do neat stuff with that, even if it's just a single player game, even if it's something as simple as putting a dot on a map.
So I agree with you, but why do you think that appeals to you more than just a multiplayer game where everyone's in the city with you?
Well, I mean, sometimes I just don't want or don't like traditional multiplayer. Like, I liked playing Assassin's Creed 4 on my own, but I like still getting to interact, in a few light ways with my friends. I just like that feeling. I like collaborating and cooperating with people, even if it's not like straight up co-op where I need to grab one of you guys and force you to play at the same time as me.
Sure.
And I also think it's just neat because it's kind of new. Like, it's just not a lot of games are doing that.
They're kind of just starting to do that sort of thing.
Like, I like the video games that I like most are the ones that show me something I've never seen or done before. And I feel like that's a space where, like, a Watch Dogs-ish type multiplayer experience can be... There's a lot farther we can iterate on that and a lot farther game designers can go, in my opinion.
Nice. Cool. Samuel.
We were talking about this earlier a little bit, Damon. I really, really like to see tools improved for anybody to be able to make video games.
That's awesome.
And I think the important thing about making records or making movies is that anybody can do it, and that greatly improved records and movies when that happened. Indie films changed the way, you don't have to put money behind a film. You make a much cooler, more interesting film that influences a bunch of other people. Same thing with music. I hate top 40 music. I love little tiny bands putting out records still. It's like my favorite thing. Anybody can do it. Anybody can sit down and put out a 45. It's like the easiest thing to do. And I love DIY culture, and I think right now DIY game development is really cool, except it takes coding, and I think coding needs to come out of gaming. And I think the people that are coding games are going to be good at coding, and they might also be really good at making games, but usually you need one of both people, and that's not good enough. People need to be able to make games on their own, and I encourage everybody to learn how to code and make a game.
That's what
but it's really, really difficult.
There's a big push these days for everyone to learn to code. Stuff like Code Academy, right?
For sure.
It's highly encouraged. It's considered a very valuable skill to have today.
Yeah. So my futuristic solution to this comes from AI and being able to describe to a computer exactly the behaviors and outcomes you want from things.
Sure.
So you say, I want to start with a game like Super Mario Brothers and change it. I think that's where the tool sets are going to be maybe in 8 years, but probably after that. But who knows? Things move really fast. What's Siri going to be like in 8 years? Like it could be good enough to start making games.
I mean, it'll probably be, I think it being, Siri-esque is a sci-fi pipe dream, but I think if it'll be the equivalent of being really good at like Excel, or like something like that. Like you don't specifically need to know how to code, but if you learn this set of tools and learn how to use RPG Maker, like you're not actually writing lines of code, but you can do awesome stuff in it. To the Moon was made in RPG Maker, one of the, sort of game maker programs, and that's an award-winning game just on the strength of its that's writing. So
when I play NES Remix, I want to make those NES Remix mini games. Sure. And I feel like that tool set, actually WarioWare DIY had stuff kind of like that.
Make your own mini
but
games.
it's still, it doesn't everything has assets and everything has things that people have already created, and I need to be able to go from scratch because that's what art is. You know, and the people that get to do that know how to code, I'm jealous of them. It's like the people that you knew growing up that are really good at illustrating. Like, I can draw a little bit, but when people can like actually illustrate, it's an amazing innate talent.
So you mean like a next level Little Big Planet kind
of?
Right?
But then anybody can make a painting or draw a painting, so you don't need to be a great illustrator, so you don't need to be a great coder.
Yeah.
You just need to have the ideas, right? And I want people to be able to do that.
That's actually a great point. This is a really good, I'm glad you brought it up because it's not something I'd ever really thought about before, but like anybody can step in front of a camera and it'll be terrible, it'll be awful, but you can step in front of a camera and speak, you know, and make a little film or, you know, beat a drum and make music.
It might not be terrible, it might be great.
Well, it might be great, but I'm just saying, like, if you don't have any experience with it, that's not necessarily stopping you from at least trying, but it does stop you from being a game. Like, if you don't have that experience, there's like kind of literally nowhere you can start. There's these apps you can download. There is stuff like
but it's like saying like, oh, you want to
called?
make movies? Well, go to school for it. Like nobody, that's completely ridiculous. Or if you're making a record.
I mean, I do want to say
Yeah,
like there
making
is RPG Maker. There are programs you can download and buy that
for
don't
sure.
require code, that even come with free tile sets and stuff like that. Like you can make a role-playing game now without needing to know how to code, or a tower defense game. But we're not. I think, yeah, I'm with you. I'd be super excited to see those tools in another 8 years become more like, you know, Microsoft Word and less like some crazy intimidating thing.
Do you guys remember that game Fighter Maker? It was for PS1.
I remember that game.
It'll let you make your
Your
own,
stupid
like,
fighting
design
games.
your own fighters. It's one-on-one fighting game like Street Fighter, and then you could create all their moves and the animation and everything. So my friends and I, we like got this game. We were really excited because we loved Rival School. So we were like, okay, we're gonna make our own fighter, we're gonna make our own characters and design their moves. But then we found out that like to save just one character, it took up like an entire memory card for PS1. So it was like basically useless.
There was a game where you could put in your music CDs and they would
It was
make...
Monster Rancher.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But NES Remix really got me thinking about that because each bite-sized game in that is something where Nintendo just messed with a ROM.
yeah.
You know, like I want to do that. You know, and that's the guy that made the game. We interviewed him. I forget his name right now, but he said he was just doing that at his desk between other functions, and I was like,
really
I want
cool.
to do that at my desk. You know,
Right. That sounds awesome. My pick for what I hope happens to video games over the next 8 years is actually similar to what our friend Michael Baker chose on his email. He says, I would like to see game systems adapt a universal game media. Sony and Microsoft can make their own consoles, but one universal disc that will work in all of them.
The UMD, some would call it.
Yeah, universal media disc.
The one console future has been a dream, long been the dream.
That's my pick.
you would rather have a like a Blu-ray
That's
type media, but only for games.
I hope Steambox actually catches on. So we just have video games are unique in media, like that you need this proprietary console to play this. Like any Blu-ray player will play any Blu-ray, any music device will play any of your MP3s, will stream any service. Like why do you need this specific console to play these specific games? It seems kind of old and outdated to me.
Do you want that more than awesome VR? Nobody chose that. I just wanted to throw that.
No, you did talk about that, yeah.
Yeah.
I do want that more than awesome VR. Although
Okay.
VR sounds really exciting
Yeah.
too. I think that would be good for developers and for gamers. Like, think how awesome Steam is. You know, like Steam.
Yeah.
Everybody has a PC or a Mac. Everybody can play games on Steam. Everybody, but only people that have a PlayStation 4 can play Infamous Second Son. Think about talented developers like Naughty Dog. Their games are very successful, but they're still limited to only people that own a PlayStation device. You know, if they made a game for a Steam box, like anybody in the world could play this game now.
But anybody could steal it, and anybody. I mean, there'd be one marketplace, presumably. I mean, the problem with this is coming
not
back to the
necessarily.
shovelware thing. It's like, how do you cut through the crap and find out that Infamous is worth playing?
Except these
IGN.
open platforms haven't ruined music or movies. It's fine.
I think they have.
You think so?
Sure.
Like,
You were just talking about
Sure, why not? I don't care.
you love 45s, right?
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't like
any
iTunes.
record player will play 45s.
Yeah.
No, I agree with the idea. I just
It'd be
don't
like-
want. I
it'd be
don't
like
want
a
it to
music
all be on
label.
Steam.
It'd be like, well, it doesn't have to be Steam. It could be anything. Like,
No, but I
like a
don't
music
want
label.
Nintendo games to even be on Steam because I want there to be somebody that says like, this is really only worth playing if you did this and this and this and made it this high of quality.
So this is
Well, wouldn't
For
that
some
be
systems.
Nintendo, though? I mean,
then
Nintendo would
people
only
can
be
do whatever they
publishing
want.
good stuff like that.
I'm just happy that people are like, driven to make blockbuster games still, because I do like those a lot.
I
think that might undercut that.
I don't know.
I agree with you. I mean, I think one console would be. It's one of the
It would
things.
just be beneficial for gamers and developers.
It's one of the things that holds video games back in some ways. You do run into kind of a problem. Using Nintendo as an example, they match their software and their hardware up so closely. With things like I don't know, like a lot of the DS touch games was sort of the start of that, and. Or like the reason that the GameCube had a Z button, you can go all the way back to that, or the Wii remote. So you lose some of that if you're stuck with sort of standardized hardware. You also lose. You'd have to be super careful of like that sense of competition. You don't really want one marketplace. You want people competing with each other. Yeah, definitely.
But Blu-ray manufacturers do compete with each other. So it doesn't eliminate competition.
And it's not really them; it's the studios, right? So if studios are still competing, I can see that working out.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it'd definitely be convenient.
Greg, you haven't weighed in on my.
I also like boxes and manuals, though. So
I'm fine with it how it's spread out right now.
It's because you're a PlayStation fan. You're happy playing PlayStation games.
All I've been playing is Nintendo lately.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, sorry. All right. We covered all. Have we covered this topic?
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Topic covered. Michael Baker.
Then that means now is the time on GameScoop when we talk about the games we're gaming.
Yeah, it needs a little thing. You're doing it.
Yeah. It was just a Tonight Show ripoff, so we can't really use that. Johnny Carson.
Bleep it all out.
I started playing Shadow of Light this week.
Yeah,
Justin started playing Shadow of Light.
Yeah.
Either of you guys?
I downloaded it.
Yeah, I downloaded it as well. I'm playing on Wii U.
That's
Is that
fine.
going to matter?
No.
Well, I don't think so.
I just was worried because everybody in the office seemed to be like, I'm playing on Xbox One or PS4.
Well, it's because we want to justify why we spent $1,000 on these giant machines.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like a 2D painted looking game. It's not
beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think it looks the same on every platform. I'm playing it on 360. So.
And you like it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it a lot.
I talked to some people on the tubes that thought it was like a little mediocre. And
Oh, really?
I'm a little worried about it right now.
Oh, man. I like it a lot so far.
I'm a few hours into it and liking it a lot.
Cool.
So far.
I'm looking forward to it.
It is a little, I would say it's a little on the easy side.
Yeah. At least the first few hours are.
Yeah.
So you
exactly.
jump around and then you have turn-based combat.
Yeah, it's like when you encounter an enemy, it goes to the battle scheme.
Yeah.
You have a world to explore, and then the combat is turn-based, or pseudo-turn-based. It's more like Grandia, if anybody ever played that.
I played Grandia.
It's awesome. It's super great, super gorgeous. I don't have anything bad to say about Child of Light at this time, except it might be. I'm a little worried about it being too easy. I don't ever play games on hard, but I pumped South Park up to hard just because it was like mindless on a difficulty other than that. And hard was not hard. Hard was like the right difficulty for someone that's played video games. Child of Light may or may not be that. I'll report back.
Yeah, you encounter a friend that joins your party early on.
Yeah.
And for the first couple hours, one of them was leveling up pretty much every battle. So
Interesting.
You're increasing very quickly. But yeah, the game is awesome. As you can see, it's beautiful. Check it out. Greg, what are you playing?
I am 50 hours into Mario Golf World Tour. I'm just getting started, seeing as how Friday gets out to everybody, so I can. Me and Mitch filmed a video today announcing the IGN Invitational, where every fan is welcome to come, be a part of it.
That'd be fun.
Get in on it, play some golf with us. Then last night I went home, downloaded Child of Light, and then played Spider-Man 2 instead.
How was that?
It's not that great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more Spider-Man.
The last Spider-Man 2 was really good.
Yeah, I know. That's what sucks, right? How good that PS2 version was. It's the same as The Amazing Spider-Man the last time around, which is, a fine game and collecting comics and swinging, but it's all forgettable in the long run.
I thought the Amazing Spider-Man 1 was bad. I didn't like it. And I've heard 2 is worse than that. But
What
I
was the one with
yet.
like 5 different Spider-Men? It was all strange.
Oh, you're
yeah.
thinking of, there was Shattered Dimensions, and then there was Edge of Time. Shattered Dimensions was good.
I played Shattered Dimensions.
Edge of Time
It
was
had
not
like
good.
Noir Spider-Man and stuff.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Yeah. It was cool.
I haven't played a Spidey game since then. I was thinking about trying this one out, but
No, this is, you won't. I mean, I turned it on, and it was like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, Mario Golf is awesome.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot.
You've been playing a lot too, yeah. We have to actually
jealous.
sit down and play.
Yeah. The only I don't know if it's a gripe, if I'd even call it that. The progression system is a little unclear.
The biggest problem with the game is that it's super murky on a lot of things.
The menu layout is kind of
Exactly.
weird.
The
I don't
menus-
know, where do I start? How do I start unlocking stuff?
Yep.
You just sort of wander around and start. It's like you wander onto a course and be like, well, I guess I'll try this.
Yeah. That was the thing, is like I was playing it, and for the first few days I was playing it, I was like, I'm telling people this is fun, but it's like there's only 3 courses in the game, and then they sent me a B-roll list for when they were coming on Up at Noon. And I was like, what the hell? So they got here. I'm like, how did you unlock these? And they're like, oh, well, leave Castle Club, which is like this awesome, you're walking around as you're me, playing, buying, and go into this, now go into this, now go into this. It's like, how the hell would you ever know?
Really?
And Toad pops up with dumb tips all the time, and he never tells you how to go do any of this
That's
stuff.
like normally the one thing Nintendo's always so good about.
Right.
So there's no menu. It's like you walk around the menu.
That's one option in the menu.
Yeah.
From the main screen, you either
There's
go
2 modes
into
from the main
solo
screen.
play or whatever, or you go in, or a quick round of golf, or you go into Castle Club.
But
And
quick
Castle
round of golf just sounds like the
Versus,
time waster.
yeah.
But there's
That's
like
where
that's
everything is.
That's where there's all these challenge. There's 90 challenge tokens that are star coins. Then you beat all of those, which I did, and I was like, I did it finally. And then it's like, now go get 90 of the moon coins, and I'm like, oh my god, there's too much content.
That's very contemporary Super Mario Brothers to have like that many things
I'm
to do.
so excited about Mario Golf.
Yeah,
it's like the
so
right
good.
game
It
at
is
the
really
right
good.
time.
Yeah.
despite those gripes.
They really nailed it then, because the last sports game was Mario Tennis, and it was garbage.
Yeah.
I'm glad
so
to have good
boring.
Mario sports games again.
There was the golf or the soccer game, Strikers.
Yeah, that was
Strikers
cool.
was awesome.
There was a sequel that I never played though. There's actually a collection on Wii called like the Mario Sports Collection, and it was just like they just put it out and it got really quiet afterwards. And we're like, what happened with that? It was like baseball and 2 other games in that.
Yeah.
Remember that?
No.
They
Oh
haven't done
yeah,
a
I
good golf
remember
game in a long
baseball. Wow, it had home run derby in it.
time. Yeah.
Forgot all about that.
It was
Anyway.
forgettable.
Justin, you're still playing Elder Scrolls Online?
Yeah, every night I'm playing Elder Scrolls Online. I'm really bummed out that the sentiment. If people don't like a game, fine, but I feel like they're not liking that game having not played it. You know, they're reading people's reviews and they're wanting to not like it because it's $60 for the subscription, and so now these negative reviews are reinforcing negative feelings they already have, and they've made up their mind about something that they never actually checked out and played, and that bums me out because.
But that's not anything new, but still.
Yeah, I know, but it's especially like if someone doesn't buy, whatever video game, it's like, oh, that sucks. That game didn't sell. But an MMO, that can kill an MMO if people don't give it a shot. Like if like the bad momentum boulder gets rolling down the hill, there's like almost no coming back from that. Like it snowballs, and like people will leave the game, or people that were on the fence will not try the game, and then they don't get the subscriber money that they need, and then an MMO can be in trouble really quick. And I like Elder Scrolls a lot, and so it does bum me out that I don't feel like people are giving it a fair chance. I hope it hits consoles, and I hope when it hits consoles, it does fix the problems that I do have with the game, and that console gamers have a positive experience.
I'm looking forward to it.
Can we go adventure together?
Yeah, you'll have to show me everything.
Yeah.
You made that pack on this show to play it. I had started it on PC, enjoyed myself fine, but got distracted, and I knew I'd really commit to the trophies.
I enjoy just exploring the world, collecting sky
Have
shards.
we seen trophies yet?
For this?
Yeah.
No, I don't think there's a trophy list out yet. It doesn't come out till June on PlayStation 4.
The wiki editor, Sam Claiborne.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, he would know trophies more than I would know wikis.
It's true.
Sam, what have you been playing?
So I reviewed NES Remix 2, which I liked. I gave it a good score. I thought the challenges weren't as interesting as before, but the game selection is a lot better. It's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And that's because I feel like 7 Punch-Out challenges that
It's
only
not
go
enough.
through half the people
Yeah.
wasn't that great. And and I knew the games so well. I know I could make Mario 3 from scratch. I know
from your brain.
Yeah, and so presenting me with challenges in that game and
Yeah.
Super Mario 2, actually most of these games, all except the awful Wario Woods. I don't care about the Wario Woods apologists out there. The game stinks. It's so bad. It's so stupid and bad. They give you platformer controls that don't work, and you have to use that to move around puzzle pieces. It's so stupid. Anyway, the rest of the games are all great, and I just know them really well, and it wasn't very challenging, but it's super cool when they tweak them and they do that remix stuff and they just mess with them. And
I look at using Samus to clear Mario blocks.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything cool?
As soon as you say it, Aransky ends it.
And I just want to play that more of that. And I want really hard a big reel of Punch Out, just Punch Out remix
Yeah, I know.
at this point. would be
I was
cool.
so disappointed to find out Punch Out is, I guess I almost called it my favorite NES game, and I don't know if I would go that far, but it's way up there. Punch Out's so good, and only 7 challenges for that game.
Yeah.
Why?
The emulation looks so good
Really?
in NES Remix. Yeah, I mean, it's just beautiful. Everything about it's beautiful. And then you go and you play virtual console games that are the same games, and they look like absolute garbage. They didn't get emulation right. On 3DS, it looks pretty good.
I think these games, I'm kind of torn between them getting out a sequel so quickly. Like, NES Remix is this awesome. I hope NES Remix is new Nintendo. I hope this is what Nintendo is now. It's like, hey, we have this cool thing. It's $10. It's out right now.
15.
Yes, 15.
Leave them wanting more is totally fine with me.
The sequel out in 6 months. Boom, here it is. But like the downside is, then you get a sequel, and they kind of took their best games and squandered them with kind of so-so remixes. Like, take your time and do it right, but do more of this awesome stuff.
Yeah. But still, I recommend playing it, you know?
Sure.
And, like, it comes out in a collection in Japan on disc, and it's so
The
cool.
two of them are on disc together in
I
Japan.
want that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
But I'll just wait till, like, there's 6 of them out and get them on that disc.
Yeah, I hope there's more. Still
Yeah.
want Super Nintendo Remix, SNES Remix.
Yeah.
That's gotta be coming.
It would be so, and they will never do, oh man, fingers crossed, but never do, like, something as crazy as N64 Remix, but, like, I mean, I can just see doing Mario 64 challenges.
Pretty cool.
Just, like, the weird stuff, because that's what's great about these games is that they challenge you to do things that you did as a kid, like try to get all the coins in that ship level that only has coins in Mario 3. Try to get them all. You don't have to. There's nothing in the game telling you to. It's just a challenge you gave yourself.
It really
And I
taps
love
into that
idea.
feeling of like making your own fun in a video game besides just beating a level.
Yeah, so like think about Ocarina of Time or Mario 64. It'd be really fun if they just dropped you in and be like, do this crazy thing, like get from Death Mountain to the lake in under, you know, a minute and 30 seconds or whatever. You know.
See, that's what I love in Mario Golf, is when you go and you do the challenges, and it's the same course you've had, but it's like, get these coins, get the ball through these rings, get, you know, this, complete 3 holes in a minute and a half. Like, it's taking what they've already built and then just making you look at it different. It's awesome.
In ideal situations, that's what trophies and achievements do.
Yep.
And
The
I think
best
people
ones.
that are detractors of those things and don't understand them don't realize I think they used to be a little bit more creative in how they do these things. A lot of times now it's like, unlock the level, like, you know, beat these bosses. But like, if you really think about them, that's what challenging achievements are like.
Yeah, too often it's just, you just earn them naturally as you play the game normally.
You finish the chapter.
I wrote an article about how nostalgia is underrated or written off all the time, but it's like a totally, like, nostalgia makes people feel good. You hear the music and you see the graphics, and then it takes you back to like an earlier time. And like, so in some ways that's like kind of not fair to modern games because they're at a disadvantage compared to like Zelda. You hear the Zelda music and you're immediately predisposed to like it. But I think like if it makes you happy, like who cares where that happy feeling comes from? And like NES Remix, in my opinion, is an example of nostalgia absolutely done like the right way. Like put a new spin on this old thing, and it's awesome.
Last week, one of our audience members asked us what games we felt nostalgic about from our childhood.
Yeah.
And Brian Altano said Super Mario Brothers was one of the games. And then on YouTube, someone commented, Super Mario Brothers cannot be nostalgic. People talk about it all the time on the internet. And someone replied, I don't think you know what nostalgic is. It's pretty good. Let's check in with the listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like John Praw did.
Yeah, that's a made-up name.
Prawn?
Praw.
He's a prawn? He's a shrimp?
No, Praw.
Praw. That's even worse.
Praw.
I bet his real name is Paw.
How would he get the nickname Praw?
He's people made fun of him for being a paw, so they put an R in there.
That's sticking the R.
Scoop!
He says, during your episode 300 special, there was a question about things newer generations of gamers will never appreciate.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that for years. I have missed the momentous occasion to swap discs. Once Blu-ray disc meant the entire game could be on one disc, I immediately missed the sense of accomplishment of being prompted to insert disc 2. As a kid, my friends and I would brag about which disc of a certain game we were on. My question is, do you think game developers have done a good job building in new rewards for players now that certain technical limitations have been lifted?
That's an interesting one. I've never missed the disc swap, but when he says
puts
it,
it that
when
way-
he puts it that way, you're like, I do remember that being a big deal when Metal Gear was like, put in disc 2, and I'm like, oh, it's happening, finally.
It's
Or
usually
when-
at a big mid-game like climax.
Yeah.
Like if they're smart, they would, a game like L.A. Noire didn't do that actually. Like it's just kind of like, oh, okay, you're on the second disc. But like the Final Fantasy games, you'd beat some big boss, there'd be some big reveal, and then it's like next disc.
This game, Fear Effect, was on 4 discs on the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
We have a couple others. There was Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah.
I think 8 and 9 were both 4
7,
discs.
8, and 9.
Mass Effect 2.
How many discs was that?
It was on,
Just 2, right? Just,
was it 3? Was it 3 that was on
it
2
was-
discs? I'm not trying to confuse you guys. One of them is on multiple
I was going to
discs.
say, it was,
And I think
on
it's 2
2
and 3
discs.
on 360 are both on multiple discs.
it was still
And-
happening last generation.
Yeah. Or, yeah.
Blue Dragon, the Xbox 360 RPG, was 3 discs.
And whichever Mass Effect I'm talking about, I think it was 3 actually, because you put in one disc and then you put in the other for most of the game, and then for the ending you put in the first disc again.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
My problem with that is, especially in RPGs where this was most common, is it would sometimes kind of ruin the drama because you would know you weren't near the end of the game. Like you're seeing dramatic stuff happening, you think, could this be the final boss fight? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. This is this big climactic moment, but you're on disc 2 of 4, so you know that you still have another however many hours in front of you.
Yeah,
Sure.
Well, with floppy disks, you would install them all first.
Yeah, sure.
And then you'd have like 12 of them instead of a CD-ROM.
Yeah,
just put them in over
I
and over.
had 6 Doom 3.5-inch floppies.
It's so funny.
I remember that. Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah, I had that one too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's that different in terms of the story arc, or like in terms of like rewarding players and feeling like you've hit certain milestones in games. Like that was there in the old games. You just had to switch discs at certain points. Now it's still there. You're just not switching discs, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Story pacing.
Yeah. I think we're okay on that. John Fra.
Paul. I know his real name.
This is
Salem Kazi.
Yeah,
Nailed
cool
it.
name.
Knocked it out of the park.
home run.
Have you ever put off playing a game that just never got into one because one a-hole of a friend spoiled it for you? For me, it was the Assassin's Creed series. My friends would come discuss the endings of each
happened
game
to you over email.
before I could even play it. Because of this, because of this, I only started playing the games after Assassin's Creed 3 had come out.
Man, you know that Assassin's Creed storyline. So
I was gonna say,
memorable and cutting edge.
The reason to play the game. as they
He
say.
killed who? Everyone. He killed everyone.
I play Assassin's Creed to climb up buildings and then jump on top of people
Right.
and murder them.
Collect crap.
I don't really. The story is not really.
Oh,
the
he's
drop for me.
whose grandfather? Whatever. Cool.
Yeah. But other games like The Last of Us is a great story, right?
Sure, Last of Us was the one that they put out the demo and then they pulled all the cutscenes from it, and people were like, in the comments of IGN articles, shouting out the ending. And I remember reading it, which it turned out to be fake. It was what they were pulling from, but nobody knew at the time. So, but I didn't want to know anything. I read it in like some other article, saw it, and I was like, and then I played the game and immediately forgot about it. And then when it was ramping up to the end, I was like, oh yeah, is that going to happen? And then it didn't happen. I was like, oh, okay. Like it didn't ruin the experience for me. It was like I put in The Last of Us, like, well, I know how this
I'm
piece
so
of garbage
sick
ends.
of the spoiler army. I just don't care. Like, you can be a responsible person and not get spoiled most of the time.
Yeah.
And if it means that much to you, then like change your ways. Don't go on message boards or read comments.
Oh, okay. So you don't
Most
feel
main
sympathetic
media
towards
companies.
people.
No, yeah, like we talk about this all the time. We are so careful with spoilers, and people are always like, "Oh, you are not being careful enough with your spoilers." Like, yes, we are. We thought about this deliberately, and we're really careful about it.
You're right.
all
It
the
has
time.
become an alarmist thing that people have an easier reaction to before they even understand.
Yeah.
There's an X-Men advertisement, an X-Men clip during the credits of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's not like a link between the two movies. It's just a clip advertising the X-Men movie during the credits for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I did a news story on that. And someone was like, "Thanks for the spoiler."
Yeah.
It was like, well, how is it a spoiler that there's an X-Men ad at the end of Spider-Man? He's like, "Oh, I didn't watch the video."
I mean, can you guys think of times recently when like something was really spoiled for you besides that Game of Thrones spoiler?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't happen that much.
No, I mean, I was just
It's
going to say
pretty
the
rare.
nature of our job. I was going to say the opposite.
We should be spoiled all the time.
Yeah, the nature of our work means that things do get spoiled for us. I had Last of Us spoiled for
Well,
me
you're a
before I
features
played
editor.
that.
I think it's different for you.
I mean, I think it's different for anybody at IGN. Like, I had Mass Effect spoiled for me before I played that. It happens a lot, but that's just, I don't know, like, okay. Like,
You shake it off. I mean, games are
you shake
more.
it off,
Games
exactly.
are more than the final 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? More than this character twist. It's playing
Sure.
and getting attached and
absolutely.
learning
Well
this.
said.
and-
So
yeah.
I'm surprised it doesn't happen more with Game of Thrones. Doesn't that surprise
It's
anybody
every
else?
day, but I mean, like it seems like every Monday it's ruined for somebody.
No, but that's no. I'm not talking about the books have been out years before it's shown on the
I see.
TV
Yeah.
show, and so how do people that only watch the show manage to avoid, or why aren't there more jerks out there spoiling? Like people are spoiling Harry Potter and stuff.
Jerks
like
aren't
that.
very literate, so they're not really out there trying to read it.
I just don't understand where any of this came from, because when I was a kid, we would talk about the ending of something first.
Yeah.
And like there just wasn't this. This is just not. When I was talking with friends, I would know when what they had seen and what they hadn't, and I would deal with that. Like I guess it's just the internet that changed things, but like
Sure.
I don't know. I never talked about spoilers ever until like 2005. Who
The problem is,
cares?
The problem is 999,000 people can be nice, but then one jerk can ruin it for
Yeah.
everyone else.
Yeah.
It only takes that one guy.
So it's only an internet phenomenon, but
Yeah.
which makes it all the more weird when, like in real life, when we're all dealing with each other and jobs and stuff. People are like, I don't want to hear about it. It's like,
It's just
Okay.
for me. It's always
Working at
the
a big
thing of
media
like
company.
not being like you're saying. It's like the spoileries job to be on the ball about not getting spoiled, right? And like the day that Game of Thrones was ruined for me, right, was ruined by an email at the end of the day from a random PR company that sent us a giant blast email that had nothing
I
to do
didn't
with
know
it.
it was a PR company.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in the message line ruined the Game of Thrones from the night before. But that morning, Darren walked in talking to somebody about Game of Thrones, and I turned around and said, "Hold on, guys, I haven't seen it yet." I put on headphones
Yeah,
and I went.
that's
You know
all.
what I mean?
Sometimes on Monday mornings I have to wear headphones.
Yeah, and there was like there was an up at noon
So
where
you took the initiative and
Right.
saying like I'm going to rescind myself instead of shouting at the whole office not
Yeah.
to stop.
Exactly.
That's the thing that the internet needs to understand is that you can go blackout, media blackout on whatever you want,
I feel but I mean.
especially on IGN because we're careful in reviews and stuff to not spoil.
Sure,
stuff, so.
but I mean, like, and there's people in comments who are being jerks. But then an example for me was when I had Courtney Draper on up at noon for the first time
Yeah.
to talk about Bioshock, and she's Elizabeth. If you don't know who she is off the top of your head,
Oh,
spoilers. But in our interview, which is about Bioshock, which if I was someone on the other side, I'd already be tentative about watching that interview, right? If I haven't played Bioshock,
Exactly.
But in the interview, I'm like, and it gets kind of awkward when spoiler alert, and then I ask the question. And so many people are like, "You didn't give us enough time," blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I did my best.
Yeah, what do you do? Do you say spoiler alert and you just sit there for 20 seconds?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, for me, because I'm thinking on the other side, right? Where if I was at my computer working, they're like, spoiler alert, I'd be like, you know what I mean? Or, like, you know what I mean? you black it out. If
Greg's
you're
just
that.
sitting at his desk.
anyway, a little bit of responsibility on the spoileries part would be
for
something I'd appreciate.
sure.
Yeah.
And I will not spoil anything for you, I promise.
One more email today comes from Jason Borman, and his name is spelled really cool. Jayson. Borman has two N's. That sounds like an action hero, right?
Well, like-
Jason Borman.
It's almost Jason Bourne.
When Jason Bourne couldn't get the job done, they sent Jason Bourne.
And this
Twice the end of Jason Bourne.
this email was sent from his Galaxy Note 10.1.
Good.
My question is, do you prefer a talking or silent protagonist in first-person shooters? I prefer silent due to the fact I can project my emotions onto the character easier.
Yeah.
Feels more like I'm looking through my own eyes. When the protagonist talks, I get a slight disconnect because it brings me back to the reality that I'm playing a game. And my emotions don't always match up with the protagonist. Your thoughts would be awesome.
I like him to speak.
Yeah.
I liked when we made that jump because I remember for
So-
years and years and years we had silent and like, why are you quiet? Like you're saying nothing, people are exploding in front of you.
So, Bioshock more than Half-Life, which you've already said you're not a big Half-Life fan.
Yeah.
But Half-Life 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, but that's part of what makes it feel a little bit old, is like Alex has these entire one-sided, one-way conversations with Gordon, and then people make jokes about it, about how he's this weird mute, and like, it's just strange. It feels
And those
strange
jokes
now.
are old now because they're in lots of other games too. So it's
Yeah.
hard to even do that anymore.
Yeah,
it's almost like a little like an aesthetic decision that like is outdated now.
Has there even been a recent first-person shooter where the protagonist
It's like
was silent?
Portal.
Well, so you're a character.
Yeah.
You're a character in Call of Duty, but you're not vocal in the same way that like Booker is.
Sure.
You know, like
Yeah.
so that's kind of an example. It's mainly focused on the external story rather than.
Portal is another good example. Like I guess I don't feel like something's lacking in Portal.
I will say Metroid was better when Samus didn't talk.
Yeah.
That's a good
About-
point.
My baby.
Oh,
I wondered if they remembered me, and I remembered them.
Maybe.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, do you want Link to talk in Zelda?
yeah, I do.
You do.
It's time, man.
I don't.
It's time.
It's time for Link to talk.
We've waited too long.
You know,
And now
that's-
if he
now
talks,
it'd be
it's gonna be
weird.
super weird.
He talks all the time. He's just like. I'd rather maybe play a Zelda and she could talk and that'd be really cool.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it has been. It's almost become like so. We've waited so long that it would be awkward now. Like you can't, like Gordon can't talk, Link can't talk. But I do think it would be better.
Other characters don't even talk in Zelda. Still.
Yeah, that's true. Nobody talks.
I think
in
it's fine.
Zelda.
I mean, I like it.
was
I like it
playing
in that
Wind Waker.
game, but it's just that's that game's choice and style.
Yeah.
It's a weird, if you don't want a character to talk or whatever, that's fine. But what was his name? Jason.
Jason
Bourne.
I did think it was a little
Borman.
strange that he says when they talk, it takes him out of the game, and then he can't like project himself onto it. And I'm
I
like,
never feel that connected to a game.
I like to think of him going, "Whoa, oh, I'm playing a game."
Yeah, it's like a 1994 Genesis commercial.
Yeah.
Like, get
It's
sucked
so
in.
real.
it's almost, I mean, isn't it more realistic that there's two people like Booker and Elizabeth running through this adventure together, and they're both people with motivations and character traits compared
This goes back to us wanting to role
plays
play.
and movies and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. For me, like, if he's not talking, I want to talk. I want to respond, and let alone the fact that I feel like when we're playing Wolfenstein.
Yeah,
good old BJ Blazkowicz there is talking about Nazi scum. That gets me amped up to go kill more Nazis and stuff.
Is that coming out soon?
Yeah.
Because the more I think about it, the more I was like, I want to play some more.
May 20th, I think. I'm ready for it.
There's only one game where you get to play yourself, and it's the Xbox One interface, and it's terrible.
All right, I think that's all the scoops we have for you this week. Viewers and listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address, gamescoop@ign.com. Thank you so much for tuning in for the show, whether or not you listen to the podcast or watch the video on IGN or YouTube. Follow us on Twitter for daily Game Scoops. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Damon.
My name is Damon. This is IGN Game Scoop, and we're out.